Kathleen reports that the soup was terrific. She says it was. It's now 8 minutes before the hour. Graceland, Elvis Presley's home for 20 years. Thousands of fans have been flocking to the trophy room there to relive the great moments of Elvis's life. And Steve Fox standing at this moment in the trophy room with a very familiar suit behind him. How are you, Steve?
Yes, it is, in fact. Pretty good. This, as you say, is a very familiar suit. It is the Aztec sun suit worn by Elvis on his very last tour. The trophy room was built by Elvis while he was living here at Graceland to hold the collection of his stuff. He got a lot of stuff in the course of his life. This is one of his last motorcycles, Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Apparently, he really loved Harleys. Some trophies from the various sporting teams he played on and supported. All around, there are plaques, awards, and honors bestowed on him by local governments, state governments, city governments, and there's a badge naming Elvis a special agent of the Drug Enforcement Administration, given to him by President Richard Nixon. This, of course, is one of Elvis's jumpsuits with cape. He stopped wearing these back in 1973 or so because they were so heavy. These jumpsuits with all the rhinestones on them weighed up to 70 pounds. Here's one of Elvis's karate outfits. More of the jumpsuits, including the fabled tiger jumpsuit. And down here, a couple of Elvis experts who I'd like you to meet. Michael Stern and Jane Stern, who are authors of a book called Elvis World. That's right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You did a lot of research looking into this book, I know.
Yes, we spent 2 years researching Elvis World, which is about Elvis and all the great glittering soap opera that revolved around him.
The single most interesting fact you came up with.
I'll give you a small fact.
Okay.
Do you know Elvis was a natural blonde? He had hair about your color.
No.
Dyed it black all his life.
All his life?
Clairol black velvet.
When he was a kid, he had blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
He did, and at about the age of 19 or 20, just as he began, becoming famous, he realized that those shimmering blue eyes of his were offset much better by really dark hair and started dyeing it then.
One of the things I've noticed walking around Graceland is that wherever you look, you see furniture and stuff, but you don't see antiques.
Why is that? Antiques. It's the same reason he didn't like blue jeans, because they reminded him of when he was poor and a country boy growing up in a two-room shack in Tupelo, Mississippi.
Poor people had old things?
That's right. Antiques were for poor people.
I think one of the things that is so appealing about Elvis to so many of his fans is how much he loved making money and loved spending money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Elvis wasn't interested in tax shelters and finding dodges to do things with his money. In fact, he was the single highest taxpayer in American history. As an
more
individual.
Taxes than anyone else.
And he loved giving gifts to wealthy people as well as poor people. He gave Sammy Davis Jr. a diamond ring and Muhammad Ali a very expensive robe. He said nobody ever thinks of giving gifts to the rich.
All right, we got about 45 seconds left. In that time, can you explain to me the basis of this phenomenon? Why people have this overwhelming feeling for this man still 10 years later?
A boy who lived out the great American dream, from a shack in Tupelo to the mansion on the hill. And the people who love Elvis believe in magic and fairy tales, as did Elvis.
The Elvis world is not a place for cynicism or snobbery.
Is that why people don't like to remember the dark side of Elvis, the drugs? The fans seem to want to forget about that.
Well, I think they think that has been so exaggerated beyond all belief. I mean, what is important to Elvis is what he contributed to this culture, to not only American culture, but the culture of the world.
Quickly, will this phenomenon continue?
It will definitely
Forever.
continue. The Smithsonian Institute called him the single most important voice in American music in 200 years, so I think it will continue.
I guess so. Jane and Michael Stern, thank you very much.
Steve.
Charlie, back to you.
Thank you, Steve. Very interesting. The concept of Elvis as a blonde, I just doesn't, I can't see it. Thanks very much.
Staggering.
And thanks to the Sterns.
For himself, with nobody really to turn to, not taking anything away from his father, but I don't think he could really turn to his father and talk to him, or he didn't feel like he could, that he could his mother.
Of course he never got over his mother's death. He was inordinately close to his parents. He was an only child. And he grew up in that kind of familial bond that I think sometimes only Southern people recognize, because there is that strong, strong sense of family there. And, I understand completely how he never got over his mother's death. And no, he didn't. Nor should he be expected to.
Elvis makes the long, lonely journey back to Germany to finish his tour of duty. And one night, while PFC Presley must stay awake and alert up on the German border, a sergeant introduces him to Uppers. A pill seems to solve all of Presley's problems. The man who changed popular music, sexual mores, and even fashion will now become a pioneer in another endeavor, experimenting with drugs a decade before it becomes fashionable. Also, while he is in Germany, Elvis meets a young woman who might be able to fill that terrible emptiness in the life of America's most eligible bachelor. She is beautiful. She will eventually become his wife. She is 13.
Hi, is Elvis here?
When she came to the house, she had like a little sailor outfit on, like a mini blouse, and she had her hair was in what I call ringlets. They were like this.
Elvis, somebody here to see you.
When I saw her, she's just, you know, she was a beautiful girl, and she still is.
Hey, Priscilla.
Hi.
But the startling fact of her age was scared us all to death.
Elvis Presley is alone in the world. He will never feel as loved again in his lifetime. Not even Priscilla will fill the void left by Gladys. There will be only one other person in his lifetime whom he will cherish as much. And tragically, he will lose her too. More on that in a moment.
And now scenes from tomorrow's installment of I, Elvis.
The Elvis nobody knew. The private demons that drove him. The woman's love that eluded him. The day the Beatles dethroned him. The public pain that destroyed him. The inner torture of a man in a world he couldn't face. The true story, Day 2. A world television event continues. I, Elvis, tomorrow on Hard Copy. Thanks for being with us. Please join us tomorrow for I, Elvis, Day 2. Good night.
Good night.
I'm meteorologist Chris Edwards with another cool evening forecast. We'll have some light rain showers ending later on tonight. Temperatures in the 40s. For the latest forecast, stay tuned to TV2.
Next on Hard Copy, Elvis, the story of a legend. From fame and fortune to despair. I, Elvis, Day 2. Tonight on Hard Copy. The Elvis nobody knew. The private demons that drove him. The woman's love that eluded him. His historic meeting with the Beatles who would dethrone him. His bizarre sermons to the groupies who worshipped him. The inner torture of a man in a world he couldn't face. The true story, Day 2. A world television event continues. A special presentation for Tuesday, May 5th, 1992.
Hello and welcome to Day 2 of our special presentation, I, Elvis. Good evening. I'm Terry Murphy.
And I'm Barry Nolan. It is the boy in Elvis Presley that the world has come to love as much as the music, the man, or the king. Elvis, the boy who will never recover from the loss of his mother Gladys, who will fail in marriage to Priscilla, and who will not survive the relationship with his girlfriend, Linda Thompson.
Publicly, he has exploded on the music world of the 50s, revolutionized its style, become the heartthrob of millions of girls. Yet by the 60s, as the biggest box office draw here in Hollywood, working mostly from this Paramount studio lot, the seeds of his eventual destruction are already being sown. August 16th, 1977. Elvis Presley will not survive the next 5 hours. He is just 42, but the king feels very old. He has many regrets.
And the #1 record for this final week of October 1962 is none other than The King.
2 years after Elvis Presley returns from the army, he arranges to bring a young woman he met in Germany back home to Graceland. She is beautiful. She will eventually become his wife. She is just 17. Her name is Priscilla.
I can't believe it.
Priscilla Beaulieu is the daughter of an Air Force captain. Elvis tells her family that she'll be carefully chaperoned at Graceland and even promises to make Priscilla his wife. After she moves in, the fans are told the young couple have a pure relationship, that Priscilla is saving herself for marriage. But it will be 5 long years before Elvis makes good on his promise.
He did not pay a lot of attention to her. She became one of his trophies. I mean, you know, I think the easiest thing he could have done is put her in a glass case, you know. Came out and take her out and dust her off every once in a while, put her back in.
Elvis and Priscilla rarely spend any time together, partly because Elvis is busy living the life of a Hollywood matinee idol. Almost as soon as he explodes on the pop charts in the late 50s, he starts making movies. This is the screen test that launches his career. He lip-syncs to his own recording of Blue Suede Shoes, and if you look closely, you can see there are no strings on that guitar.
What you wanna do? Honey, lay off them shoes and don't you step on my blue suede shoe.
In his early pictures, Elvis shows a real flair for acting. But now in the mid-60s, his talent is being wasted, squandered in a string of movies featuring dumb plots, lots of girls, car songs, and a few fights. The formula works, and Elvis is the biggest box office draw on the land, but he's miserable.
It just drove him bananas. He had no control. He had scripts that were horrible. But Elvis was a control person. If he didn't have control, he didn't like it.
But there are some advantages to being Elvis Presley. Every Saturday night, there's a party at Elvis's Beverly Hills bachelor pad.
For the heck of it, one Saturday night, I just got this wild idea in my head, and I went around the house counting. And I counted the girls, and there were 7 guys in the room, 7 of us, not counting Elvis. There was 152 girls.
Elvis's parties in Beverly Hills were quite strange by Hollywood standards. There was no alcohol ever served, and when the ambitious models or starlets, all 10s and stunning, would come up to the house, they would be served potato chips, cookies, soft drinks, maybe iced tea, and there would be no drugs around, no marijuana, no cocaine, no LSD, and they would have a Sweet 16 party, basically.
The Memphis Mafia observes a strict protocol at Elvis's parties. None of the boys make a move on the women till Elvis makes his selection. Then the man who can get up on stage and drive thousands of females into a frenzy focuses all his energy, all that sexuality, on one woman.
But he was on. I mean, it was coming from within, you know, and he was putting out such a feeling to this woman. And by the time an hour or two of doing this with her, she forgot she was with Elvis Presley. She's with this wonderful, gorgeous man.
Meanwhile, Priscilla is ever faithful, keeping the home fires burning in the vast, empty, and increasingly lonely rooms of Graceland. Elvis thinks that's just the way it ought to be.
He was from the old school, where, you know, there's the woman that I adore. She's right here. She has a certain place in my life. She's on a pedestal. There is the occasional dalliance, but this woman is the one woman that I love, that I revere, that I cherish.
So there, in essence, was really 2 sides to Elvis Presley: the rock and rolling sexual buccaneer, which goes along with the position, and the Bible-raised, faithful husband or boyfriend. He was King Stud, and he was also a faithful partner.
As the quality of his movies goes downhill and Elvis grows more frustrated, he becomes increasingly dependent on prescription drugs, amphetamines to get him up for early calls, barbiturates to bring him down after a long shooting day. And he becomes obsessed with metaphysics, spiritualism, reincarnation. He reads every mystical book he can find.
The books that he read were very metaphysical. They were The Leaves of Moya's Garden. He quoted constantly from the Bible. He would sit and underline. We would just read for hours and hours upon hours.
In later years, Elvis will try his hand at faith healing. He will wander around a Memphis mortuary after dark and ponder the mysteries of the afterlife. But now, with the evangelical zeal of a Southern preacher, Elvis tries to enlighten and teach the multitude around him.
What does man gain for all the toil that he toils under the sun, Joe? I don't know, Elvis.
it was odd because a lot of times the multitude would be all of these gorgeous models or starlets that have come up to the house to perhaps sleep with Elvis or advance their career, and instead of a quick drink and let's hop off to bed, he's reading the Bible to them.
Amen. All these girls were gathered around this coffee table, and Elvis started off sitting talking. The more he got into it, the more animated he got.
The sun rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place.
And he had a cane, and he's raising that cane. And telling them stories about with Moses, with the staff, of the blood, the river, everything, the locust. But when it happened, it was all right with them. They had Elvis.
It sometimes seems like a private joke with someone not in the room. A joke with his late mother, Gladys, perhaps. For the true Elvis is beginning to become distant. More of I, Elvis, in a moment. In the 50s, Elvis Presley has been the rebel, the outsider who blasted in the age of rock and roll. But in the 60s, while Elvis is busy making movies, there's a second revolution, the British invasion, headed by 4 Liverpool lads who idolize Elvis. In 1965, while the Beatles are taking America by storm, they visit Elvis, the man who inspired them in the first place, and a rock and roll summit is arranged. It is supposed to be a secret, but somehow word gets out. It is a night that changes history, and a night that is ominous for Elvis Presley, the rebel, as well. August 16th, 1977. Elvis Presley goes into his bathroom and suddenly suffers a seizure. Perhaps the defining moments of his life flashed before his eyes like so many scenes in an incredible movie. It is 1965, and the Beatles are absolute sensations. The biggest phenomenon since Elvis himself. They dominate pop culture the way Elvis did 8 years earlier, with a #1 single, a #1 album, and a #1 movie, all titled Help. Elvis's current movie, Tickle Me, is a flop, and it's been years since he made a real rock and roll record. Still, there's only one person the Fab Four really want to see while they tour America. And in August of '65, before playing the Hollywood Bowl, they call on Elvis at his gated Beverly Hills home.
There was thousands of kids outside the house that got leaked out. There was thousands all over the walls, fences, everywhere.
John Lennon, Elvis Presley. Paul McCartney, Elvis Presley. George Harrison, Elvis Presley.
All of a sudden, the Beatles are walking in the house. And it's like, you know, introducing royalty to royalty. One thing leads to another, and they come in, and the Beatles, being very, very shy people, were sitting there, and nobody said anything.
And they're just staring at him now. There's a moment of silence. As a matter of fact, it was a long moment of silence.
So finally, Elvis sits there, and he's nervous, and the Beatles are sitting there, and they don't know what to say.
Finally, he just looked at him, and he said, "Hey, look, if y'all are going to stare at me all night long, I'm going to bed."
I'm going to bed, man. You know, I just kind of hope we could sit around and talk, maybe about music, maybe even jam.
John. And when he said that, they just went nuts. And, you know, because that was a dream for them. So then they got up and went by the piano, and they started singing. I mean, every one of us had said, boy, if we just had a tape recorder, that would have been fantastic.
I ain't got a watch, but I sure got a long way to go. I'm a long boy, and I'm a long way from home. I'm a long boy, and I'm a long way from home.
On the surface, it appears to be a light-hearted jam session. But the Beatles are painfully aware of Elvis's decline as the king of rock and roll. John Lennon is the Beatle who finally breaks the ice on this touchy subject.
Mr. Lennon cornered Elvis in one part of the house and said, well, Elvis, how come you don't cut any more rock and roll records like you used to? And Elvis replied, well, you know, it's my film schedule. It's kind of tight, but maybe I'll cut one soon just for kicks. Lennon replied, well, in that case, we'll buy that one. I'll bet it shook Elvis up a little bit. Lennon was just arrogant enough to sort of slap his face a little and say, Elvis, why aren't you making the records like you used to, the great records that made us want to be musicians? So come on, cut some rock and roll again.
I ain't got no matches, but I sure got a long way to go. Oh, yeah.
By the time they left, you know, they had said this was the greatest night, and Paul and John in particular had said, well, look, if you guys are not doing anything tomorrow, how about coming over to see us? And Elvis said, well, I'll try. Well, we knew he wasn't going to go.
A dream is born that night in the heart of Elvis Presley. A burning desire to get back to his rock and roll roots. It will take him 3 years to realize that dream. And by then, there will be other complications in his life. In 1967, Elvis finds himself under pressure to marry Priscilla.
He said that he was more or less talked into it by the Colonel because he had made the promise to her father that if he would allow her to come and live at Graceland, that he would eventually marry her. Well, 5 and 6 years down the road, he pretty much had her, from what he said, and did not want to marry her.
Elvis is once again trapped in a role he doesn't want, an unhappy marriage.
He came to me one time and he said, Charlie, I think I've lost it. I said, lost what, Elvis? He said, these movie songs and everything, I think I've lost it. And I said, Elvis, I work for you, so anytime you want.
Anytime you want, day or night, I'll sit down at this piano, and you and I will sing, and we'll find that love and feeling.
Together, they searched for it, but for the inner Elvis, that loving feeling was an elusive emotion. More of I, Elvis, in a moment. Elvis Presley had only 2 great loves in his life. The first was his mother Gladys, and fate dealt Elvis a cruel blow when he lost her, just as he was taking the world by storm, changing pop music forever. Sadly, the other great love of his life would also be taken from him, and that tragedy would start the long, slow spiral to his destruction. When Elvis Presley met Priscilla Presley in Germany in 1955, he fell in love with a beautiful face and a little girl. But Elvis and Priscilla were never soulmates. They were never right for one another. And from the moment they came together, they were destined to hurt each other deeply.
He tried to mold her into his image of what the king's wife should be, with the black hair and the eye makeup and everything. And she went along with it because she was young and could be manipulated. But they really did grow apart.
For many reasons, Elvis and Priscilla are people on different paths. He has his movie career, she has Graceland, but it isn't enough for either of them. By 1968, when Elvis's movie contracts expire, he knows it's time to rock out. And when NBC offers him a Christmas special, he jumps at the chance. It will be one of the most stunning comebacks in show business history. The show's director remembers that Elvis is terrified before the performance.
He said, my mind's blank and I don't want to go out there. And I sat there and said, Elvis, just trust me. Just go out there, and if you have nothing to say and you forget to sing the songs or anything, just come back and that'll be it. And that was the real turning point, because when he walked out there, it was electrifying, magical, and he started to ooze all that talent out.
After a decade of mediocre movies that would have ended anybody else's career, the King is back in top form. Tragically, the best part of his life is already behind him. Elvis will be dead within 9 years. Tensions between Elvis and Priscilla mount. Priscilla argues with him about his escalating prescription drug dependency. According to her autobiography, to please him, she tries LSD with him. Instead of a mind-expanding experience, it widens the gulf between them. Eventually, Priscilla falls in love with her karate instructor, but in the end, it isn't drugs that kill the relationship. It's Elvis himself.
He seemed to have a sort of a aversion to a woman if she'd had a child or had been married. And unfortunately, once Priscilla had Lisa Marie, Elvis became totally turned off to having sex with her. It had something to do with his great love and reverence for Gladys, that Gladys, Mama, was on such a pedestal that he couldn't have sex with a mother.
1973. While Elvis prepares to go on stage in Vegas, Priscilla tells him what he surely must already know. The marriage is over. On October 11th, they begin their lives apart. If losing Priscilla is a blow to his ego, losing his 4-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie, is a blow to his heart. Linda Thompson should know. She will become Elvis's constant companion after the breakup.
He was like any divorced parent. He was very saddened by the fact that he didn't have a normal life, a normal mother-father relationship to give to his daughter, Lisa, in addition to all the other craziness that his life involved. I think that was a source of sadness for him.
Two people in Elvis's life who unconditionally loved him were his mother Gladys and his daughter Lisa Marie, and both were taken away from him.
Don't cry, Daddy.
The divorce from Priscilla and the loss of Lisa Marie begin a terrible downward spiral. Within 5 years, Elvis Presley will be dead. More on the fall of the King in a moment. The day 20. Now here's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on hard copy. Elvis, a legend tumbles. The divorce, the drugs, the downfall. From rising star to fallen idol. What really happened? The final 15 minutes. His private finale, I, Elvis. Then, Johnny Carson, the undisputed king of late-night television. But Johnny joked his way through tragedy, his son's death and his painful divorces. Now, after 3 decades, he's saying his final goodnight. The truth about why Johnny quit tomorrow on hard copy. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Barry Nolan.
And I'm Terry Murphy. Good night.
Spend Saturday with your favorite Disney characters. This is Sherry Margolis. Join Rich Fisher and me at the Southfield Civic Center as we celebrate Walt Disney World's 20th anniversary. It's fun and it's free. The celebration starts at 1 this Saturday.
Elvis, a legendary career, tumbles in a very private fall. The divorce, the drugs, the downfall.
From 3 different sources I heard I was strung out on heroin.
From rising star to fallen idol. What really happened in the final 15 minutes of Elvis's life? His private finale. And later, the king goes gun crazy and drug crazy. Life ticks away in the saga of I, Elvis. Now the television event continues. Flip outs, pass outs, shootouts. The king of rock and roll's fast decline. I, Elvis.
Elvis Presley paid the price for his money and his fame. By the mid-70s, the price would be dramatically visible in his body and at times in his personality. It would be a sad image of the king who ruled so triumphantly and with such adoration from so many. Elvis, the boy, the man, the king, were giving way to Elvis, the lost. By 1977, people close to Elvis Presley are horrified by his appearance. A lifetime of drug dependency is slowly killing him. The once beautiful boy is now a frightening mirror image of his own mother, Gladys Presley, who died in her 40s. At 42, Elvis is dangerously close to following her tragic lead. flash back to 1974. Elvis still has 3 years. Still time to save himself. But time is running out. And at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas, rumors are spreading that Elvis is using heroin.
I hear rumors flying around, man. I got sick in the hospital, you know. From 3 different sources, I heard I was strung out on heroin. I swear to God, and don't you get offended, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking to somebody else out there. If I ever find or hear of the individual that said the things they said about me, I will pull your goddamn tongue out by the roots.
The sad truth is, Elvis is fooling himself. Though he doesn't consider himself a junkie, he is drugged all the time. He can only keep up his grueling performance schedule by relying on doctor-prescribed pharmaceuticals. Ironically, he is also becoming addicted to a powerful painkiller called Dilaudid, synthetic heroin. Linda Thompson is now Elvis's constant companion.
He tricked himself into thinking that what he was doing was not hurtful to him or to anyone else. It was perfectly legal. You know, once he recognized what was happening to his body and what was happening to him, he was you know, too far in trouble, really, to get the kind of help that he needed.
Elvis is a paradox. He lives like a vampire, rising only at night. Although he owns a 26-room mansion, he spends most of his time in one bedroom and rarely goes out of it, preferring instead to watch visitors at the gates of Graceland through closed-circuit TV. When he does come downstairs, he dresses in full Elvis Presley regalia.
I said, honey, you know, you could probably go out a lot more and experience a lot more normalcy if you would just kind of tone it down a little. You know, you could dress down. You could just kind of wear John Doe clothes. And he said, you know, it doesn't matter what I wear. When I go out, people are going to know who I am, and I don't want to disappoint them. I want to give the people what they expect.
Perhaps to escape, Elvis begins touring. He moves in an endless claustrophobic cycle, from Graceland to his limo, to his own private jet, to the city where he performs, and back again. On stage, he sometimes reads from metaphysical books. He doesn't finish songs. His adoring fans forgive him, and many of the people around him make excuses for him.
To me, it was Elvis' show, and who was I to judge or suggest that he could do a better job?
Still, and somehow miraculously, Elvis Presley keeps his bizarre sense of humor.
What's wrong with that TV set?
He gets a reputation for shooting out television sets and really earns the nickname he's had for years, Crazy.
Oh, man. You really thought I was going to do it.
There's a chandelier hanging over there. And he had this .22 Savage that was his favorite gun for shooting out things. And he took that .22 Savage and started shooting over there at that chandelier, trying to shoot these little things that hang down, the little crystals.
Oh, no!
The bullet was going through the roof. It's one of those drop roofs, you know, because we're on the 30th floor. And then we had a rainstorm come into Vegas. And, man, we're having buckets where he's got these leaks. Now, this is a gorgeous place, right? And the roof is leaking all over, these bullet holes all over the place.
Lamar?
Elvis did a good number of things for shock value, and just to elicit a response, just to say, wonder what they'll do.
It is one of the great ironies in this story of ironies that after a decade yearning for a chance to really act, in 1974, Elvis Presley walks away from the best shot he'd ever get at serious acting.
It's about a washed-up rock star. Not that you're washed up. Don't get me wrong, really, Elvis. But what do you think?
That year, Barbra Streisand asks him to co-star with her in A Star is Born. They meet in his Las Vegas dressing room.
It was a very nice, warm meeting, and I thought it was a great idea.
The deal falls through partly because Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, doesn't want Elvis to take second billing to anyone. Publicly, Elvis shrugs it off, but privately, he's devastated. At the time, nobody realizes just what a blow it is.
I want to tell you something. I've never been strung out in my life, except on music.
We next find him on stage in Vegas, high, talking about reports that he was strung out on heroin, and he vehemently denies it from the stage. But I think behind the scenes in Elvis's head, he was bitterly crushed and gave up
Until now, Elvis's drug use has been a carefully guarded secret. But during a concert date in Maryland, the secret nearly gets out.
I helped him out of that car, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. His hair was very unkempt, and he had a look about him. And he said, "Hey, Sonny." I said, "Hey, boss, come on, let's get you upstairs." "What'd you do, just wake up?" He said, "Yeah, they just woke me up when we landed." I got him upstairs, we put him in his room, and then I led us in prayer, about 5 or 6 of us in the room, and prayed for him, and that the Lord would come down, because he wasn't doing it on his own.
For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever. Amen.
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 Tomorrow night, the shattering conclusion, step by step, moment by moment, what happened in the final moments of Elvis's life.
Elvis's last hours. A game of racquetball. One last song.
Amazing grace.
The wrong pills. The moments of terror. The king is dead. The stunning conclusion. And a little later, the last temptation of Elvis, the final minutes in the life of the king.
Elvis, wake up, boy.
Now, the final hours and minutes of the life of Elvis Presley.
He loved singing, and he loved giving his best to his audience.
God, I loved him.
The shattering conclusion to the TV event, I, Elvis. That's next. All week, we brought you the TV event, I, Elvis, the life and fall of America's king of rock and roll. Now, after a life of prescription drug abuse, Elvis awakens from his bed to meet his maker. By 1977, drugs have ruined Elvis Presley's intestines, shut down his colon. Most of his weight is due to water retention. He is in constant pain, which in his mind makes the drugs all the more necessary. Despite all his problems, he presses on. Concert after concert, city after city, Elvis is working himself to death. But why?
He loved singing. And that's entirely what motivated him to go out on the road, to do 2 shows for every night in Las Vegas for a month at a time. And it was grueling, but he loved it, and he loved giving his best to his audience.
On the last day of his life, Elvis Presley is once again preparing to go on tour. He visits the dentist and receives painkillers containing codeine, a drug he knows he's allergic to. Later, he plays racquetball with his cousin Billy Smith on Graceland's private court. Billy and his wife team up against Elvis and his new girlfriend, Ginger Alden.
I guess we played doubles for just a few minutes, and then it turned into a kind of a clown act. You know, me and him was trying to hit each other more with the ball than actually playing racquetball. I don't think he was in good physical shape.
Then, Elvis leads his guests to a piano. It will be the last time anyone hears Elvis lift his voice in song.
Amazing grace.
Billy washes Elvis's hair, and they talk about the upcoming tour, about 2 bodyguards, Sonny West and his cousin Red West, who have gone off and written a lurid tell-all expose about Elvis. Elvis feels betrayed.
If I see them, I'm going to kill them. You know,
He got up,
It makes me
he
angry.
said, "They have never beat me, and they're not going to beat me now."
And they're not going to beat me now.
And that's the only thing that really stood out overall in my mind, you know, because it was such an unusual statement.
From his bedroom, Elvis phones his doctor, George Nicopolis, and tells him about the codeine pills. He can't take them. So Dr. Nick writes a new prescription for Dilaudid, a powerful drug Elvis has taken many times. Elvis's stepbrother delivers the drugs. But according to investigative author James Cole, Elvis gets his pills mixed up. He takes the codeine.
All of a sudden, and this is something that had happened before when he'd taken codeine, he began to feel itchy, and he began to get short of breath, and he began to feel clammy.
But this time, the codeine triggers a deadly allergic reaction. After years of living on the edge, after any number of overdoses, in the end, a tiny mistake kills the great man. Hours go by before anyone discovers Elvis.
So I ran upstairs, went into the bathroom, and Elvis was laying there face down on the carpet. As soon as I touched him, I knew it. His dad come upstairs, he fell down on his knees, tried to help me. You know, he kept saying, Elvis, wake up.
Elvis, wake up, boy.
I remember little Lisa trying to come in the door, and they blocked her, wouldn't let her in, so that Lisa would not be able to see her dad. Then there was a ride in the ambulance, and there was Dr. Nick coming in, saying he's gone.
Oh, God, I love him.
For the people who were close to Elvis Presley, the memory of Elvis at the end is a painful one. They naturally prefer to think of him in better times. And so that's the image we'll leave you with. This is Elvis in one of his greatest televised concerts.
Lord Almighty, I feel my temperature rising. Higher, higher, it's burning through to my soul. Girl, 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 you gonna set me on fire. My brain is flaming, I don't know which way to go. Yeah, your kisses lift me higher, like the sweet song of fire. And you light my sunshine, a burning love.
If I could say anything to him, it would just be that I cherish the time we had together, have great reverence for that time of loving, I have a great deal of respect for him, and a huge amount of love that I will carry with me to my grave for him.
I just might turn to smoke, but I feel fine.
Hard Copy would like to thank the Elvis Presley estate for its help in the making of I, Elvis.
I'm meteorologist Chris Edwards with another beautiful evening forecast. Clear skies, temperatures falling into the 50s on light winds. For the latest forecast, stay tuned to TV2.
Come back, baby. Come back, baby, I want to play. Have you heard the news? Everybody's rocking tonight.
Elvis lives again as we uncover hours of never-before-seen home movies.
I did love Elvis. That was my first love. He was my very first love.
A Steve Dunleavy exclusive. And a star shows he's still got the Dwight stuff. Viva Lost Elvis. Hello, everyone. I'm Maureen O'Boyle. Welcome to A Current Affair for this Thursday, November 5th. Tonight, we have a double Elvis Presley exclusive. Steve Dunleavy has unearthed hours of never-before-seen home movies of the King in the very early years of his career. During his research, Steve also interviewed Presley's first serious girlfriend. She gave our resident Elvis expert a whole new insight into Presley's love life. Steve?
You know, Maureen, whenever you mention the name Elvis, the average viewer says, here we go again. Another crazy story about an Elvis sighting or another ugly story about Elvis and his drugs. But not this time. The films you are talking about, actually, some of them are more than 35 years old. And in them, we'll introduce you to some characters who will bring a smile to your lips, a tear to your eye, and hopefully bring a song to your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And he would stick his finger in my mouth or in my eye or just anything to break me up.
Well, the next step is love. So what are we waiting for?
His personality was wonderful. He had a tremendous amount of humor and so handsome.
He was like a big kid. Elvis was a big kid, in fact. There I am playing the piano. We'd all just had a ball.
There I am. Yeah.
The loved ones of Elvis today took a dreamy, nostalgic ride through time when the King was the King. and watched themselves on rare film just discovered by a current affair as history was being made.
It's like a movie or something, Steve. Like with you, I'm talking about it. When you leave, I step out of the scene. It's just like I was in a movie or something, you know. It's hard to imagine.
I never dreamed that 30 years later, I'd be hearing myself sing with Elvis Presley.
Gordon Stoker was one of the fabulous Jordanaires who worked with Elvis and today still has the group. He is now watching this never-before-seen film of one of Elvis's earliest performances in Tupelo, Mississippi. Gordon was there.
He just wearing the top. He had a gold lame suit, and he was just wearing the jacket there with black trousers. So the crowd loved him, as they always did, as you know.
But a little lovin' can go a long way. Gordon describes this rare footage of total hysteria.
Hysteria? Yeah. We looked up and about 10,000 people were coming toward us. They'd broken through the police lines and were coming toward us, and he turned around to us and said, "Run for your life," and we all did.
In those early days, before Elvis ever knew the meaning of the word drugs, he was a shy Southern kid who just really didn't get it.
You can understand why the women would react to him the way he, just for himself.
One of the few women who could explain the mystery was Anita Wood, today a grandmother and kindergarten teacher in Vicksburg, Mississippi. She was Elvis's girlfriend for 5 years before he met Priscilla.
I did love Elvis. That was my first love. He was my very first love.
But even love with the king can't last forever. While in the army in Germany, Elvis met Priscilla.
I don't know what he was telling her at the time, but he was telling me that the little girl that I'd seen in the papers, you know, that he was coming home, was just a 14-year-old girl, and she was just a friend.
Elvis was making GI Blues in Hollywood when Anita went to visit him.
I found a letter that she had written him. Got quite upset, so we had a big argument, and I went home, and I understand she came right in to visit him, and she did. And he begged me not to tell anybody that this little girl was 14 years old, because he was getting a lot of trouble.
As the romance between Priscilla and Elvis blossomed, love between Anita and Elvis withered.
I said, "I'm deciding to leave. I'm going to leave you. I think it's for the best." And he cried, I cried, his daddy cried.
George Klein grew up with Elvis, became a honcho in the Memphis Mafia, and now owns a video store.
I introduced Elvis to quite a few, Steve. Anita Wood, Linda Thompson, and then Ginger Alden.
This old home movie may not be of Cecil B. DeMille quality, but it's historic, because Elvis never allowed cameras into private parties. George Klein, seen on the right in his younger days, was a party animal.
Early days were like being in heaven for young guys. We were 21, 22 years old. We were rocking and rolling. We were partying all night. We were making movies during the day. We were doing concerts. There was constantly girls around. We were having a great time.
But girls and good times often didn't make for happy relationships with jealous men, like the time a bunch of Marines tried to beat his brains in.
And all of a sudden, Elvis reaches in his coat, and he pulls out a gun, and he puts it right between that guy's eyes. He said, "Now what are you going to do?" I said, "Elvis, where'd you get that gun?" He said, "Man, it's not real. It's a Hollywood prop gun." He brought it home from Hollywood.
And another time when Elvis ended up in court on charges of brawling after a gas station attendant hit him in the head.
Elvis jumps out, and he decks the guy. The guy's a big guy. He knocks him down.
But Elvis's biggest fights were with his own insecurities.
He once said, I can't play, I can't sing, I can't dance. What do they want me for?
In the classic movie Jailhouse Rock, in which Gordon played a part, Elvis stunned everyone by throwing out the choreography and designed the entire dance routine himself.
We'd say, "Baby, you got what it takes. Give it to him."
And he kept on giving it to them until the center of his world collapsed. His mother, Gladys, died.
His whole world revolved around his mother, and that was very important to him, and it devastated him. He did not talk about it too much. I think he kept it in, and I know it just hurt him bad.
Many of his friends believed that that was the day the music died for Elvis Presley. But while on this earth, the man who sang the songs that made the whole world sing had done his job.
As I've always said, I think he inspired the world to pick up a guitar and sing. I think all these guys, the Vince Gills, the Steve Warners, and all these people that are coming along now that are so great, I think he inspired all these young people to pick up a guitar, to go to the piano and sing and play. And that's the reason there's so many great singers today.
When Anita broke up with Elvis, she gave away her souvenirs of their life together. One of them was a signed guitar that today would be worth a king's ransom. Still ahead on A Current Affair, Presley's favorite song from one of America's favorite singers. That's later. We'll be right back with a new take on an old standard.
Why can't you see what you're doing to me when you don't believe the word I'm saying?
Next week, Billy Ray Cyrus and his brother had a band and a dream. Now Billy's at the top and his brother's scraping bottom.
He was supposed to end people's suffering, but he's suspected of causing agony for one family. This doctor's wife told police he murdered a patient.
I thought a doctor got his license to save lives.
Prescription for murder on the next A Current Affair.
That story and more Friday on A Current Affair. And coming up Monday, we kick off a week-long series featuring the stars of country music. We'll give you a taste now with Dwight Yoakam's version of Elvis's favorite song, Suspicious Minds. Good night.
What you doing when you don't believe the word I'm saying?
Hi, this is Jim Harper from WNIC. You've been watching A Current Affair here on TV2. Now join us tomorrow morning on The Breakfast Club to find out how you can be a winner.
Town against her and forced her family to move.
"58 years ago today, a king was born in East Tupelo, Mississippi. At his peak, Elvis Presley was larger than life. In death, he's even bigger. Today, the king's only daughter gave a rare television interview about her father, and the long-awaited Elvis postage stamp finally went on sale and has his fans all stuck up.
I gave a letter to the postman. He put it in his sack.
Yes, it's true. There have been Elvis sightings today. Not in the flesh, but on a stamp. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the post office and will be coming to you through the U.S. mail. At 1 minute past midnight, the Graceland Post Office put the stamp on sale, immortalizing the king on what would have been his 58th birthday. His fans walked more than a mile to be able to return to sender.
We came down just to be a part of this, which I think is great. I think Elvis deserved. I think he deserved this stamp a long time ago.
Being an Elvis fan, one has to stand in line and enjoy everything that you can get from Elvis, right?
And in honor of this commemorative occasion, his daughter, Lisa Marie Presley Keough, broke her silence about her dad.
And he was just an enormous being. You know, he was very powerful and very, he was just an exceptional person, and I think that just emanated on stage. But obviously, you know, he was like that all the time. All the time. He was just incredible. He was very huge, had quite a presence, and had a lot of love and a lot of passion, and I think that's what comes across, and it's very well interpreted by the people. You know, they really feel what he's doing.
Priscilla Presley, the king's former wife, was given the first of the commemorative stamps by the Postmaster General, but it was a rare appearance by Presley's daughter, Lisa Marie, that made the occasion more special.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. To accept this for my father, it's a great acknowledgement, and I really appreciate it. And I speak on behalf of him and my family and myself. Thank you.
Lisa is keeping her father's legacy alive and has not been seen since the birth of her second child, Benjamin Storm. She was last seen exclusively on A Current Affair at her daughter Danielle's second birthday.
I think as far as the music goes, that he definitely communicated to people and he touched them and very deeply.
And if it comes back the very next day.
There's no dispute Elvis fans have a hunk of love for the legend. And in fact, this was the first time a stamp was picked by ballot. The younger Elvis image beat out the older 70s image. And just as he set the fans on fire with his music, 15 years later, so will his stamp.
Well, Elvis stamps, T-shirts, suntan oil, what could possibly be next? We think we found the answer. Elvis trading cards. Buy them, collect them, whatever. Our George Chicharone found that some of the King's fans are doing the Elvis shuffle.
Used to be when an Elvis knick-knack box, toothpick holder, or lovely tender milk bath was enough to distinguish a die-hard Presley fan. But now the next generation of Presley gyration has been captured on Elvis Presley trading cards. Billed as the cards of his life, these wallet-sized tributes span the King's life and times.
Wow! Do we really need Elvis Presley trading cards? Absolutely. Elvis is really a part of our great American culture, whether we like it or not. Exactly.
There are 660 cards in all of Elvis himself, many of which never before seen shots obtained from private collectors. And on the back, fun facts like this.
In 1954, George, Elvis earned $30 a week driving for the Precision Tool Company. Amazing.
Yes, now fans can marvel at the wallet-sized sights of Elvis's boudoir and almost smell the gunpowder as they gaze upon the King's target range. There's Elvis clipped to Elvis stripped. Again, living, loving, and dying?
Our collection is called The Cards of His Life. So we cover Elvis as a 2-year-old and Elvis at his graveside at Graceland. It's touching.
The manufacturers are hoping these pint-sized pictorials will even give traditional baseball cards a run for their money, and that the old Presley popularity will cause fans to buy these things up from Hollywood Boulevard to Times Square.
I think I like it.
What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that Elvis is LA anymore.
Here's Elvis's saddle.
I'm not impressed.
Tough crowd. But according to its manufacturer, the Elvis cards are breaking all trading card records as they expect first-year sales to reach the $100 million mark. Talk about an initial reaction.
Elvis is the king, and he's certainly the king of cards.
So Presbyterians grab the kids.
Don't you have a food station?
And load up the bus. For the latest Presley craze that's guaranteed to make fans flip, because the new trading card ace just may be a king.
Thank you, baby.
We'll be back with even more about Elvis.
Now, as thousands gather at Graceland, we'll show you Elvis Hawaiian style.
I think he still, in a way, is a presence in Hawaii.
That's next. It was 16 years ago today, America lost its king. They've come by the thousands to Graceland to remember rock and roll's legend, but 5,000 miles away in Hawaii, his island friends have their own remembrance. Doug Bruckner takes us on the unofficial Elvis tour.
When you think of Hawaii, you think of palm trees, hula girls, and the king. And we're not talking about King Kamehameha.
I don't think a lot of people realize the effect that Elvis had on the popularity of Hawaii.
Next to Graceland, Hawaii was Elvis's home away from home. His love affair with the Aloha State began back in 1957.
Hawaii has a big future. I want to become a part of it.
For many years, Elvis Presley fans have come to Hawaii to walk in the King's footsteps.
Now, Hard Copy takes you on the unofficial Elvis tour. See where Elvis once stood. Visit the hotel where he once laid his head.
If they're lucky enough to stay at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, they can rent the suite that he stayed in.
Our station, KHVH, was right above where Elvis and the so-called Memphis Mafia were staying.
Meet Ron Jacobs and Tom Moffat. They were DJs for Hawaii's only rock and roll station back in '57. The studio was at the Hilton Hawaiian Village where Elvis was staying, and they pulled off the first ever Elvis hoax.
I impersonated the young Elvis.
And we had a fellow dressed up as Colonel Parker with a big straw hat.
And Uncle Tom on the air would advance, mention where we had been seen, and then we'd run there, of course, and people would be out looking for us already.
Listeners were calling in saying, I think I saw Elvis.
And people were coming up to us for autographs, and
everybody was listening to us. And so I'd say, okay, now I just got a report from a listener in Kailua that Elvis is there.
Elvis was listening on the radio.
But we hadn't cleared this with him. We just went ahead and did it on our own.
It was just a prank, and we know that we knew at the time that the Colonel was very big on pranks.
And I know that Elvis also got a kick out of the fake Elvis that we had done that morning in 1957.
The Colonel even let the two DJs MC Elvis's first Hawaiian concert. It was held here at Stadium Park, second stop on the unofficial Elvis tour.
And I imagine the stage would have been just about here.
Yeah, where we're standing. The stage was here, and the whole McKay Ocean.
Remember when he jumped off the stage when in the encore to Hound Dog? I've never seen anything like that. He jumped right off the stage with a little barrier up, chicken wire, and down on his knees singing to the audience Hound Dog.
And it happened right here, folks, in November of 1957.
Next stop, Block Arena, where Elvis performed in 1962. Elvis raised enough money during this concert to build the Arizona Memorial.
Effort of manpower and engineering.
Then there's the Lagoon, where Elvis exchanged his wedding vows in Blue, Hawaii, at the Cocoa Palms Resort on Kauai.
Last year, 8 couples from Britain took the plunge, riding down the same canal that Elvis did in Blue, Hawaii. Thanks to Elvis, Hawaii's tourist industry just grew immensely.
And today, on quiet nights on the island of Oahu, just outside of Manoa, after the sun is set behind Diamond Head, some say they're seeing Elvis again beneath those golden arches.
Elvis was seen at McDonald's. He was also seen at a Burger King. They were always at a place where you could eat.
You've never seen Elvis here. So you come here every day and you have never seen Elvis.
Oh, no, never seen Elvis.
Then stay tuned for an extremely rare look at the King's Home Movies. And we'll be back in a moment for a tribute to Elvis Presley. The King's first girlfriend shares her memories of the man who died 16 years ago today. "16 years ago, Elvis Presley stopped the music for millions of his fans. Last night, more than 10,000 people filed past his grave in a candlelight procession. Well, we found 3 of Presley's closest friends and shared with them some extremely rare home video of their good old days with the King.
There I am playing the piano.
There I am. Yeah.
The loved ones of Elvis take a nostalgic dream ride through time, when the King was the King, and watch themselves on rare film discovered by a current affair. Film which shows Elvis's history being written.
It's like a movie or something, Steve. Like with you, I'm talking about it. When you leave, I step out of the scene. It's just like I was in a movie or something, you know. It's hard to imagine.
I never dreamed that 30 years later, I'd be hearing myself sing with Elvis Presley.
Gordon Stoker was one of the fabulous Jordanaires who worked with Elvis and today still has the group.
And he would stick his finger in my mouth or in my eye or just anything to break me up.
He is now watching this incredible film of one of Elvis's first performances in Tupelo, Mississippi. Gordon was there.
He just wearing the top. He had a gold lame suit, and he was just wearing the jacket there with black trousers. Well, the crowd loved him, as they always did, as you know.
But a little lovin' can go a long way. Gordon describes this rare footage of total hysteria.
Hysteria? Yeah. We looked up, and about 10,000 people were coming toward us. They'd broken through the police lines and were coming toward us, and he turned around to us and said, "Run for your life," and we all did.
In those early days, before Elvis ever knew the meaning of the word drugs, he was a shy Southern kid who just really didn't get it.
You can understand why the women would react to him the way he was, just for himself.
The next step is love. What are we waiting for?
His personality was wonderful. He had a tremendous amount of humor and So handsome.
One of the few women who could explain the mystery was Anita Wood, today a grandmother and kindergarten teacher in Vicksburg, Mississippi. She was Elvis's girlfriend for 5 years before he met Priscilla.
I did love Elvis. That was my first love. He was my very first love.
But even love with the king can't last forever. While in the army in Germany, Elvis met Priscilla.
I don't know what he was telling her at the time, but he was telling me that the little girl that I'd seen in the papers, you know, that he was coming home, was just a 14-year-old girl, and she was just a friend.
Elvis was making GI Blues in Hollywood when Anita went to visit him.
I ran over, found a letter that she had written him. Got quite upset, so we had a big argument. And I went home, and I understand she came right in to visit him, and she did. And he begged me not to tell anybody that this little girl was 14 years old, because he was getting a lot of trouble.
As the romance between Priscilla and Elvis blossomed, love between Anita and Elvis withered.
I said, I'm deciding to leave. I'm going to leave you. I think it's for the best. And he cried. I cried. His daddy cried.
George Klein grew up with Elvis, became a honcho in the Memphis Mafia, and now owns a video store.
I introduced Elvis to quite a few, Steve. Anita Wood, Linda Thompson, and then Ginger Alden.
This old home movie may not be of Cecil B. DeMille quality, but it's historic because Elvis never allowed cameras into private parties. George Klein, seen on the right in his younger days, was a party animal.
Early days were like being in heaven for young guys. We were 21, 22 years old. We were rocking and rolling. We were partying all night. We were making movies during the day. We were doing concerts. There was constantly girls around. We were having a great time.
But girls and good times often didn't make for happy relationships with jealous men, like the time a bunch of Marines tried to beat his brains in.
And all of a sudden, Elvis reaches in his coat and he pulls out a gun and he puts it right between that guy's eyes. He said, now what are you going to do? I said, Elvis, where'd you get that gun? He said, man, it's not real. It's a Hollywood prop gun. He brought it home from Hollywood.
And another time when Elvis ended up in court on charges of brawling after a gas station attendant hit him in the head.
Elvis jumps out and he decks the guy. The guy's a big guy. He knocks him down.
But Elvis's biggest fights were with his own insecurities.
He once said, I can't play, I can't sing, I can't dance. What do they want me for?
Man was jumping and the jump began to swing. You should have heard
In the classic movie Jailhouse Rock, in which Gordon played a part, Elvis stunned everyone by throwing out the choreography and designed the entire dance routine himself.
Or we'd say, baby, you got what it takes. Give it to them.
And he kept on giving it to them until the center of his world collapsed. His mother, Gladys, died.
His whole world revolved around his mother, and that was very important to him. And it devastated him. He did not talk about it too much, but I think he kept it in. And I know it just hurt him bad.
Many of his friends believe that that was the day the music died for Elvis Presley. But while on this earth, the man who sang the songs that made the whole world sing had done his job.
As I've always said, I think he inspired the world to pick up a guitar and sing. I think all these guys, the Vince Gills, the Steve Warners, and all these people that are coming along now that are so great, I think he inspired all these young people to pick up a guitar, to go to the piano and sing and play. And that's the reason there's so many great singers today.
Elvis's first girlfriend, Anita Wood, has one memory of the king she'll never forget, namely the souvenir guitar signed by Presley, which, believe it or not, she gave away. Today, I'm sure it's worth a king's ransom. And we'll be back in a moment. I'm Bill McGowan. Join us tomorrow for the next current affair. Good night, everyone.
Joel and Maggie find a new side to their relationship on Northern Exposure tonight at 10. But first, even Fontana can't be a supermom. Evening Shade is next here on WJBK TV2.